Welcome to the Doorway to Self podcast, a metaphysical container for all things mental health, all things human, and all things psychic. Because if you're human, you're psychic. Through the power of story, the gift of psychoeducation, and shared research of the human experience, we will delve into all things metaphysics to help bring to light the truth of your being. If you're on the journey home to your golden self, this is the podcast for you. Here we go. This is the Mental Health Revolution with Rachel Leah Gerson of Doorway to Self. Hello, and welcome back to the Doorway to Self podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Leah Gerson, and it is just a delight to have you back. So thank you so much for coming back and tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about a really popular topic. This is something that I get asked about all the time, and that is energy hooks and cords. What are they? How do they form? How can I clear myself of them? What is the process? Are they healthy? Are they unhealthy? Etc. So I hope you're going to stick around for this episode and listen up, because this is going to be really, really vital information for not only your own energetic health, but also your mental health, obviously, and the health of your interpersonal relationships as well. So energy hooks and cords are formed because energy flows with the path of least resistance. And as humans in this day and age, we are taught that in order to have connection with someone, we need to have connection with someone. So what I mean by that is that we live in a society where we are taught that if we are not completely immersed in something, if we are not completely attached to something or someone, if we are not inputting ourselves, then we cannot possibly be actually experiencing something. Where in reality, if we really wanted to have a solid connection with ourselves and still experience the outside world, we could actually do that. And that's probably a future episode that we can talk about that in, about keeping the integrity of your energy and also being able to still experience deep connection. But in the meantime, let's talk about this. So what we've done is we've begun to learn, or not begun, this has been centuries, where we develop what are called energy hooks and cords. So energy flows with the path of least resistance. We know this from physics. This is a law of physics that is incredibly important to our scientific world, and also incredibly important to our energy world, because energy moves with the path of least resistance. That is the rule. So what happens is that, let's talk about cords first. Let's go there. So energy cords are mutual, okay? This is when energy flows both ways. You're forming a connection with somebody, and this can be anyone. This can be a parental figure. This can be a sibling. This can be a friend, an acquaintance. It can even just be somebody you lock eyes with on the street and you're never going to see ever again in your life. The point is that you are mutually forming an energetic connection where you are able to give them energy and take or receive their energy. They are able to give you energy and take or receive your energy. You're able to equally experience each other however you would like to. So if you want to envision a rope or a hose or a pipeline, something of the like that is connecting your energy between your body and another person's body, and that pipeline is just flowing, right? And it's flowing in both directions, back and forth. Whomever is giving and receiving can be done equally. So this is a mutual exchange. It is consensual. This can be toxic or healthy. It does not matter. You can pour toxic energy both ways and receive it both ways, just as you can pour love both ways and receive it both ways. So cords are neutral. They're neither toxic nor healthy. It does not matter. They're just there, right? This is just a way of connection, a form of connection that we can have between ourselves and other people or places or animals or objects or entities. The list goes on. So where this might not necessarily be beneficial is that you are then carrying along other people's energy with you wherever you go. These can be kind of turned off or turned on depending on how tuned into them you are, how conscious you are of them, all of that stuff. And also others then have access to your energy kind of whenever they want as well. So that can also be either beneficial or detrimental depending on who the cord is with. So that might be a reason why you would choose to cut a cord and get rid of it. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but first I want to talk about hooks. So what is the difference between an energy cord or an energy hook? So what we already discussed is that an energy cord is mutual. It's consensual and it's mutual, whether consciously or unconsciously. You're both able to give and take equally from each other and to each other. With a hook, it is not consensual, okay? This is a control tactic. So whether you are trying to gain control over someone else, you would be throwing an energy hook. Or if somebody else is trying to control you, they would be throwing an energy hook. And this is most of the time, I would argue 90% of the time or more, is actually done completely unaware, completely unconscious. We see these scenarios in everyday life. Some examples might look like perhaps a boss trying to get you to do a project that you don't really want to do and you don't really like, but they use their status and their power to control you and also, to try and really, really rub it in and rev that engine within you to get the project done. They might throw an energy hook at you as well so that you get it done to the best of your ability, even though you don't want to. So there's one example. Another example, which I'm sure many of you listening are very familiar with, is the relationship example where one partner maybe isn't feeling like the relationship is the right fit for them necessarily, and they're constantly feeling in their intuition, they're getting this gut feeling like this is not right, this is not my person, this is not what's in alignment for me or best for me, and I should leave. And the other partner is feeling that, and they're feeling insecure, and they're feeling like they're needing to control the other person to keep them in the relationship. And so then they would cast a hook out as well, hook that partner, keep them there. And then the partner who's wanting to leave is like, oh, but maybe I should stay. I'm kind of feeling like I should stay. And there's this indecisiveness that happens. And it's because the person who wants to stay in the relationship is guiding the other person with the control over their energy. So this is completely, obviously non-consensual. The person trying to leave is just as responsible for this. If you are in a position like this or similar to this, where somebody is trying to gain control over you, they're using a hook with you, I really want you to go deep within and ask yourself some questions. It's time to do some shadow work. Where might playing the victim be comfortable to me? Where might gaining other people's pity be feeding my energy or feeding my drive? Where might staying in an uncomfortable relationship be potentially more comfortable to me than I realize? Why am I keeping myself in an uncomfortable situation out of comfort, if that makes any sense? So those are all things to look at. Again, energy flows in the path of least resistance. So if a hook is able to jab its way into your energy field, there is a reason for it. There is something that is not resisting that hook, that's allowing it to come into your sphere and attach itself there. And so I just really, really want to challenge you to sink into that and to feel into that and to ask yourself these questions if you find yourself in these scenarios. Another really common one is the friend who is extremely negative all the time, always surrounded by drama, always experiencing these horrible things, and it's always poor me, victim, 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 I need your help. And you keep running to them, or maybe you are the friend, I don't know. So just envision yourself in which role you might be in this scenario. And so you keep running to them to help them, and you're going, oh my gosh, I'm so drained right now. I don't know why I keep coming back to this friend. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like it serves me. It drains me all the time. I'm always feeling like I'm lacking energy and I'm just giving so much to them. They have probably hooked you, okay? And they are continuing to hook you into their drama. I like to envision a hook as exactly how it sounds, right? If you imagine yourself fishing, you're casting a hook into the water, you're seeing who's going to bite, or maybe you're casting out for a specific fish that you kind of see swimming under the surface, and you're waiting for them to bite, and as soon as they do, you've hooked them, and you're reeling them in towards you. You are taking away their power. It doesn't matter how hard they struggle to get away. It doesn't matter how much strength they use in their swimming techniques. They are hooked and they are coming towards you. They are putting up a fight maybe, but they are still under your control. And you are taking away their life force, right? Because eventually you're going to pull that fish out of the water, which is where it gets its breath. It's where it's able to swim freely. It gets its freedom. So you are taking that ability away from them. And that's exactly what hooking is it is when you are, if you're the one doing the hooking, of course, when you are pulling someone in, reeling someone in away from the control that they have over themselves and away from their personal freedom and power and alignment and life force energy. Or, of course, reversed, if you're the person who's being hooked, that's what's going on with you. So if you're feeling particularly weak at this point in time in your life, you really might want to check yourself for some hooks because, that might be going on. So some symptoms too. I think it's really important to share these as well. If you're a hooker, wow, that was a Freudian slip. I did not mean to say that. If you are trying to hook someone, or if you are someone who is culpable of hooking people, you will be showing these symptoms. Okay, you will be feeling maybe on top of the world. You will be feeling very powerful. You will be feeling manipulative, deceitful. You'll be feeling like, oh, I'm so cool, I can get away with XYZ, or I have so much power over so-and-so. You also will likely be feeling like you don't like yourself, but you don't necessarily want to face that. Okay, so let's hide that one away, right? In your brain, that's what you're saying to yourself. Let's hide that one away. It's more important that I just focus on the fact that I am feeling ultra powerful right now, right? I am unstoppable. But really what's going on underneath the surface is you don't know who you are, and you're feeling insecure about feeling out of alignment with who you are. You're feeling insecure about the fact that you feel like you need other people's energies to feed you because you don't know what your own energy feels like. And that sucks, okay? Been there, done that, speaking from experience. I am there with you, okay? I get where you're at. It is painful. You're probably wanting to shut this podcast off right now because you're in the trenches listening to this, I'm sure. If you are on the other end of things, if you have a lot of hooks in you, or you're very prone to getting hooked, these are some of the symptoms that you might exhibit. Okay. So you might exhibit feelings of confusion a lot. You are probably going to be an extremely indecisive person. And it's interesting too, the way that shows up is usually you'll get an immediate gut feeling of the answer that you should be following, the direction you should be going in, and then immediately question it, okay? And immediately start thinking about this other person or these other people and how would this decision affect them, and oh, but that's not right, okay? So a lot of indecisiveness, a lot of confusion, lack of connection to the self, feeling lost, feeling trapped, lots of self-pity, lots of victimization, lots of codependency, things like that. You might find yourself in toxic relationships. So the shadow questions to be looking out for yourself: where might I like to feel pitied? Where might I like to be the victim? Where might being the victim be playing a role in who I am or in my identity? Right? So these are all things to look at. And again, you're probably now, if you're in this scenario, cringing on the other end of the line going, oh my gosh, this isn't true. Who would do that to themselves, right? Who would play victim on purpose, even if subconsciously or unconsciously, right? But these are real things. And I just want to let you know that I've been there too, okay? I've been there too. And again, it sucks because then you have to admit to yourself, shoot, I'm in this place and this is really shameful and painful. And how could I treat myself this way? And yada, yada, yada. Okay. So wishing both of you, both sides of that scenario, luck in this work, because, it's hard and it's gruesome, but the other side of it is so, so worth it and so beautiful to be able to reclaim your essence and your power over who you are and step out into the world and shine it and allow others to bask in its light and be inspired to shine their own. So now that you know what energy hooks and cords are, let's talk about how to cut them, okay? How to get rid of them. So there might be some cords that you're wanting to keep, and that's completely okay. That's up to your discernment, right? I'm not going to tell you what is and isn't okay. That's for you to decide. Go into your intuition, go into your gut, see what feels right to you. But if you're wanting to cut things, or even if you're listening to this freaking out going, oh my gosh, how do I know if I have these things? I've got to find someone right away to help me with this, blah, 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 blah. Slow down. Take a breath. Yeah. Take a deep breath. Let it go. Let it all go. You're okay, okay? You're okay. You're okay. All right. So there are two things that are really important that you're going to need to do this, okay? The first one is trust. What I mean by that is you are going to need to be able to trust that the universe is on your side. It has your back. It's helping you out, okay? And trust that you are doing this correctly, okay? I've worked with several clients in cord cutting situations where they've been like, you do it. And I'll say, well, why don't you want to do it? And they'll say, oh, because if I do it, it might not work, okay? You would not believe the amount of times I've heard people say that. I would honestly guess probably about 60 at this point, if not more than that. Trust yourself. Trust that you know what you are doing. Trust that it is going to work, because energy work is about intention followed by action, okay? If you have the intent that you are getting rid of this energy from your field, if you have the intent that this cord or hook is going to be cut and sent away, that is what's going to happen if you follow through with it, okay? Trust. The other thing is to know yourself. Okay? If I get a bowl of ice cream and there's a scoop of chocolate and a scoop of vanilla, and all I know is that it's ice cream, I might not be able to understand that they're two different flavors, okay? But as soon as I taste the difference, as soon as I understand that the vanilla is vanilla and the chocolate is chocolate, and I understand what the two different flavors taste like, it's going to be easier the next time I take a bite of chocolate to say, that's not vanilla, okay? My point in saying that is, how do you know if someone else's energy is in your field if you don't know what your own energy feels like, tastes like, looks like, sounds like, etc.? Okay? And maybe you don't need to know it in all of those areas, but wherever you're psychically strengthened, wherever you have the most strength in the energy world, in any of those senses, right? What is your essence? Who are you? I know that's a big question, and I know some of you out there, maybe probably a lot of you out there listening to this, don't know who you are and what you feel like. And if you don't, that's okay. I applaud you for listening to this, because this is what's going to spark you, if you haven't already been sparked, to go do that work. Work with your inner child. Work with memories of yourself where you felt so full of you and your you-ness that you're able to fill yourself up with those memories. Work with your favorite color or your favorite plant or your favorite flower. Work with those things to bring yourself back to you. This might take a long freaking time, and that's okay. It literally took me years, and the work never stops, because we are constantly growing and evolving and changing. So once you find your center, once you find the core of your essence, as I like to call it, there's so much change within the human being, within the being of being human, that we then have to recalibrate ourselves to the core of our energies. And there's a lot of work in that as well. So just knowing you are taken care of, and it's okay. Okay. So those are the two things you're going to need for this work. 1, trust. And 2 is know thyself. Okay. Know your energy so you can know what's not your energy. So now I'm going to walk you through the steps of cutting cords and hooks. Okay. It's the exact same process for both, with a minor difference between the two, but I can walk you through that. So the very first step is to scan your body, okay? And again, trust, okay? Scan your body. Some people like to do this with their eyes closed and laying down. Others like to do it sitting. I prefer to do it standing. You can have your eyes closed or open, or even as just kind of like little slits so that you get that psychic energy rolling, really activating that pineal gland by doing that. So those are all ways to do it. Some people like to physically take their hands and touch their physical bodies to feel for cords. Other people like to kind of sweep their hands above their bodies to feel energetically for cords. And other people like to just do a body scan within their mind's eye. So again, just kind of seeing what works for you, okay? When you do this, trust that what is meant to be known will be known. Trust that you will find exactly the cords and hooks that you need to cut, okay? And you may experience this in many different ways. It completely depends on what your psychic strengths are, right? So if you're somebody who's extremely claircognizant, that psychic knowing, then you might just know, right? You might not even have to get through the whole body scan. You might just be like, oh, okay, I have a cord in my gut. I have a cord in my back. I have a cord in my butt, right? So that might be you. Whereas if you're clairvoyant, that psychic sight, you might maybe see the actual cords growing out of your body, or you might see colors. You might see your body in different gradients of colors as to where cords or hooks might be or not. You might get an image of the person's face in your head who the cord or hook is attached to. And then get an image of the body part that it's attached to. You know, I mean, there are so many different ways that you would experience this. If you are clairsentient, right, the ability to feel the energy between yourself and the atmosphere or another person, you might be able to scan your body with your hand hovering above your body and actually feel the different energy of where the hooks and cords are in your body as opposed to where they might not be. So there are several different ways. I'm not even going through all of them right now. It's all about just tuning into yourself, tapping into yourself, seeing what works for you. You might try several different things to see what works, right? And even if you're predominantly clairvoyant most of the time, you might be someone who, when you do cord cutting, you tap into your clairsentience and the clairvoyance doesn't come at all. So again, different psychic abilities can come up at different times where we need their help most. And so again, just trust that, okay? So step 1 is the body scan. Step 2 is cut the cord or hook. Now, again, several different ways to do this. 1, you can do it in your mind's eye. Just kind of envision the cord being cut or the hook being cut. 2 is you can do it physically with your hand. This is my preferred method, but again, find what works for you. So you can take your hand, make it flat, and just slice it with the side of your hand. You can also take your pointer finger and your pointer finger and your middle finger and form a V with them, kind of like scissors, and you can cut, pulling the 2 fingers together, kind of like scissors. So you can do that. Some people like to actually physically use knives or scissors to do this. If you're going to do that, please use caution. I really don't want to be responsible for anyone getting hurt because they listen to this podcast. So just use your discretion, use safety precautions. Please be wise about this. And if you are going to use something actually physical like that, like a knife or scissors, maybe having one that is blunted or dulled and used specifically for cord cutting exercises so that it's like an energetically induced knife, I guess you would say. So again, just kind of whatever works for you, whatever calls to your heart, whatever makes you feel cleanest and best, like, yes, this worked. I set the intention. This is the action. This is the action that I feel in my gut is most aligned to me, and this is what I'm doing. Okay? So step 1, body scan. Step 2, cut. Step 3 is to plug it in. And actually, I'm going to back up to step 2 just for a moment here because this is where the cords and hooks differ a little bit. So with cords, you can just cut them. With hooks, I would suggest you cut them and then try and find where the hook is hooked into you and unwind it from your body, okay, so that actual energetic hook can come out and be released. So that's just the only difference between the two. If you don't know what I mean by that, you can play around with it. That's all right. Just play with it, okay? Just have fun with it. I know it might sound weird in this situation because a lot of people will view this as extremely intensive, but just, play with it, have fun with it, see what works for you. So, all right. So then the next step is to plug it in. So what you're going to do now with the cut portion of this cord or with the unhooked portion and cut portion of the hook is you are going to plug it in to either the earth or the above, okay? The earth being a grounding energy. What this does is it actually helps the energy of the situation to ground out, okay? This is making it kind of basically take a deep breath and sink its feet into the ground and kind of just go away. Okay? Take a nice big slumber. It's almost like a timeout. I kind of like to think of it. Okay, so that's what that does. You're plugging it into the earth. Plugging it above, when I say above, I mean into whatever you believe, okay? So source energy, universe energy, God energy, goddess energy, I don't care what you want to call it, but you're plugging it up. And what this does is it actually enlightens the situation, right? So this is, if there's like an extremely negative energy or a lot of control issues or a lot of, shadows that the other person is not facing, things like that, that's where you want to plug it up, because it's helping them then to do the work more. It's helping the situation to get brighter, bring light source energy into that stuff. So go with your gut. Trust that what you do is going to be right. There is no right and wrong in this situation. Okay. There have been many times where I've been working with clients. I've cut cords for them. And I always ask them, where do you want this, up or down, or source or ground? And they, I'll be in my gut, like it needs to go in the ground, and they say source. And I just trust that, because they're the ones who know, right? This is their cord or their hook. They know, right? Just like you know. So trust it. Okay? Trust that where it's going is exactly where it is meant to go, what is best for the highest good of both you and the other person or place or entity or animal or whomever it is that you are connected to energetically in this way. Okay, so the reason for the plugging in, other than grounding or enlightening, is pretty important, and it's twofold. So the first part of this is that if you imagine that you have a bottomless cup, okay? You have a cup that is filled to the brim with water, and it is filled, and you drink through a straw. And I know straws are taboo right now, so just please just imagine a metal straw, okay, if that makes you feel better. It's just an analogy, folks. So you're drinking through a straw, and you're drinking from this bottomless cup of water. It never ends. You're constantly drinking. It's filling you up all the time. You always feel just so satiated every single time you take a drink. And all of a sudden, you're drinking. Everything feels great. There's no worries or cares in the world. And you hear the at the end of the cup, that awful sound when a cup is running out of liquid and you're drinking through a straw, and it's like that. Yeah, okay. And you freak out. Okay, because you're so used to just being able to take a drink whenever you want, to having this fill, like just automatically be filled up and to fill you up, right? And so what does the brain do? It starts freaking out. It starts thinking, oh my gosh, I'm never going to have water again. Oh my gosh, how do I get more water? How do I refill this cup? What's wrong with it? Why am I not able to get more water? And so you immediately start trying to think up and problem solve how to get more water in the cup. And, the faster you can do it, the better. Okay. So that's what's going on when we cut a cord or a hook. The other person who's been tapping into our energy for who knows how long is now left with a bottomless cup. Okay. They're left with the Slurpee straw. And so they freak out. And their immediate reaction is to try and reattach the cord, okay? So cords can grow back. And there are two reasons for that. One is exactly what I just explained. The other person is freaking out, so they automatically just try to grow it back, right? Survival strategy. The other reason is because when you cut a cord, you're now left with a gaping hole in your energy field. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? So, which actually brings me to the final step of this process, which is to fill up that gaping hole with yourself, with your own energy. And this is why what I talked about before naming the steps about knowing yourself, knowing your own energy, this is another part of the reason why that is so important, because if you don't know your own energy, you're not going to know what to fill that space up with. And you could literally fill it up with anything, which could be extremely harmful, or you could just leave it a gaping hole again, and that'll make it more easy for them. It'll make it easier for them to reconnect as well, right? Energy flows in the path of least resistance. If you have a vacuum essentially in your energy field, it's going to get filled up. And if they are trying to reattach ASAP, it's going to get sucked into that vacuum. So that's why that happens. So We want to plug them in to source or ground, not only to enlighten the situation or ground the situation, but also so that they're plugged into something else. Okay, so that they can't reform that cord with us, at least not right away. Okay, so imagine this is kind of like taking that cup of water and now it's drained of the water. And before you can even realize that the water's gone, it's now filled up with orange juice. Okay. And you're like, this tastes kind of different, but all right. Or maybe you don't even notice the difference right away because you're just so used to sucking out of the straw and that's the motion. So you're just going to keep doing it and it's satiating your thirst. So, whatever it is, the point is that you are giving them something else that they're able to pull from, that they're able to connect to, etc. And it's also because they're pulling from those places, they're then getting the energy of that grounding or of that enlightenment. So that's what's really cool about that. So, again, just kind of running through the steps here, we've got the body scan, then the cord cutting, then plugging that cord or hook into source or ground, and then the final step is filling yourself up with you. So with this final step, some people like to just envision their energy going to the space in their body where the cord or hook was, and just envision it filling up. Other people like to breathe their energy into that space. Other people like to put their hands over that space and allow the energy to go from their hands into that space, or on it physically. Some people like to just do it with their mind's eye. Again, it's about what works for you, what feels best for you, what makes you feel as though the action is completing the intention. Okay? So that is what I have to say about energy hooks and cords, what they are, how they work, and how to cut them. Now, I know I said that they can regrow, they can grow back, and that's okay, they can. If they do, keep checking yourself for that shadow work, okay? Why are these growing back? What am I not resisting here? What is not closed off in me, in my psyche, that I'm needing to work through to continue to set the boundary here where this connection is no longer okay? Okay. Also, it's just a nice practice to clear yourself of all cords and hooks in general. Every now and again, or even every day, depending on your philosophy and how you feel. And again, those cords can grow back too. So if it's somebody you're not wanting to set a boundary with, if it's somebody you're wanting to continue to have a connection like that with, then you can always cut it just so that you can be clear and you can come into alignment, and then invite those cords to grow back as needed. So that's also an option. So now that all has been said and done, if you have any questions at this point in time, I really want to invite you every single month on Facebook, on the Doorway to Self page on Facebook, and on Instagram on the @DoorwayToSelf page. You can find a live Q&A session that I host every single month. It's completely free, and you just hop on. It goes for an hour on both platforms at the same time. You can put any question that you have whatsoever about anything to do with cord cutting or with metaphysics in general, honestly. You put your question in the comment box, and I will do my best to answer it live. So those are really fun events, and you can actually find the replays of all of those events thus far on YouTube. If you search Doorway to Self on YouTube, I put them all there with the questions that were asked in the description, along with timestamps. So if there's a question you're curious about, you can just jump directly there and hear the answer, which is pretty nifty. So if that's something that's calling you, I highly suggest that you come join me for the next one, which is actually this Sunday, April 5th at 12 p.m. EST. So if you want to hop on live, I would absolutely love to see you there and see you pop on. I always love seeing your names and the hearts and the likes and all of that stuff. It's just such a cool community to be in. And speaking of community, I also want to invite you to the very first ever
online support group with Doorway to Self. So that has just opened its doors as of yesterday, actually. It's called the Door Openers. And what it is it's a Facebook group. And then every Thursday night at 8 p.m. EST, we will actually meet on Zoom to do a live private support group session where people can talk about any of their energetic experiences in depth, and just receive guidance and support from myself and from peers and colleagues and acquaintances, and build really strong connections within the community. So this is really a huge gift, and it is actually a gift in light of everything that's been going on, all of the trauma that's been forming. I want to be able to extend this opportunity to you for free or by donation if you so choose. And if you do, I am incredibly grateful. But seriously, for the month of April, I want to make this an opportunity that's open to anyone and everyone who is having struggles at this point, and especially those of us who are incredibly energetically sensitive, who might be worried about maybe hooking or courting into the disease, into the virus, or having that hook into us as well, because that's also something that can happen energetically. So, you know, if those are things you're experiencing, or being an empath and maybe feeling all of the collective fear, or feeling the fear of those close to you, or feeling the illness of those close to you, anything that's going on right now, or maybe you're having a huge awakening, which is a thing that's happening to a lot of people through this situation as well, and you're needing some support as you're going through it, this is the place for you. This is the space for you. And I really, truly want to invite you to come. So doors are open. All you have to do is go to Facebook, type in the Door Openers. It will show up. If you don't find it there, you can find it through the Doorway to Self Facebook page, and you answer a couple really simple questions, and then request to join the group, and I will likely approve you so long as you're not, completely contrarian to everything that this stands for, which, if you're listening to this podcast, I don't think you are. So please come join. I invite you to do that.
So that is all for today. Again, follow me on Facebook, Doorway to Self, Instagram at Doorway to Self. And also you can follow some of my personal journey as well. If you follow at Rachel.Leah.Gerson, I invite you to follow all of those. And again, sign up for the email list and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. I am looking so forward to future podcast episodes with you and engagements in any way, shape, or form. This is truly, truly a pleasure to be expanding my teachings in this way. Not my teachings, but these teachings in this way, to help reach you more fluidly. So with that, I'm going to close out. I'm sending so much love your way, and I'm looking forward to having you tune in on the next podcast episode.
Happy April and
much love. Thank you so much for tuning into the Doorway to Self podcast, for helping to spread psychic education, and for being a part of the mental health revolution. I hope you have received exactly what you needed today for your personal growth, understanding, and healing. For more information on upcoming workshops, retreats, and online events, please go to doorwaytoself.com. Thank you, and have a beautiful rest of your day.